live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Wednesday, February 21st. Going in depth tonight on the sentencing for Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt in St. George on Tuesday. They were both sentenced on felony child abuse charges. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with the show here. Use the hashtag 2 News Live. You can join the conversation that way, or you can send us a message on Facebook, X, Instagram. Send a DM to weigh in.
All rise. We're here for sentencing in the matter of State of Utah versus Ruby Franke. What's the state's position regarding sentencing?
They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot.
For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion.
The sentence will be that Ms. Franke serve 4 counts, 4 1 to 15-year sentences based on her convictions. Court recalls the matter of State of Utah versus Hildebrandt.
The combination of 3 factors make Ms. Hildebrandt a significant threat to the community.
I sincerely love these children.
In this case, you terrorize children, and the results have been tragic. The court imposes 4 1 to 15-year sentences to be again served consecutively for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse.
A quick recap of the happenings inside of the courtroom in St. George. Both Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt were sentenced by Judge John Walton to 4 consecutive terms, 1 to 15 years. But what is the abuse they're being sentenced on? It's not only egregious, but it's something we really haven't talked about on air often because it's tough to stomach. Here's a quick synopsis of what one of Ruby Franke's children went through.
He was bound hand and foot with handcuffs around him, and at times he was laid on his stomach, and the handcuffs from his ankles to his wrists were tied, so he was hog-tied in a position that kept his legs off the ground and his arms off the ground for hours at a time. And there is clear evidence of the handcuffs cutting into him and doing harm there.
It's hard to listen to, but it's the reality that 2 of these children went through, and that's just one of the examples of what happened to 2 of Ruby Franke's children. You can read more about the abuse on our website and the articles from the waiver hearings. It was outlined also in court yesterday. Ruby Franke showed a lot of emotion and even remorse in the courtroom yesterday. She also shared more about her relationship with Jody Hildebrandt.
Jody Hildebrandt was never my business partner, nor was I ever employed by her. I have never received wages from her or connections. Jody was employed as my son's counselor in 2019, and in 2020 I paid her to be my mentor.
The audio a little tough to hear there, but basically Ruby distancing herself a bit from Jody. More from Ruby in a moment. Here's some of what her family had to say with statements submitted to the court. Franke's parents sent a letter to the judge pleading for leniency. They wrote in part, quote, "For 3 years, what brief communications we had with her, she accused of us of either things that never happened or she grossly exaggerated the events that did. She was delusional. She was so deeply brainwashed we could not recognize her." They went on to say, "As her mother and father, we plead with you to show her as much mercy as you possibly can." Meanwhile, Franke's younger brother also sent a letter to the judge saying that Jody Hildebrandt brainwashed Ruby Franke. He wrote in part, quote, "At the continued encouragement of Miss Hildebrandt, Ruby systematically pushed those around her away. First myself, then our sisters, parents, and close friends, and then her husband, and finally her own children." Bo was also in attendance in the courtroom yesterday. Now to Ruby's husband, Kevin, who was also in attendance with Ruby's 2 oldest children, Chad and Sherry. Kevin recently filed for divorce and filed just a few weeks ago for guardianship for one of their other children. Here's what Ruby had to say about Kevin and their relationship in her statement during the sentencing.
Kevin, my husband of more than 23 years, you are the love of my life. I'm so sorry to leave to you to finish what we both started together. The ending of our marriage is a tragedy. It really wrapped around my heart, and now I'll never be able to undo.
Kevin was visibly emotional after Ruby read her statement about their family. I had a view of looking at him from where I was seated in where typically a jury would sit. They put some of the overflow media there, so we got a good vantage point of the courtroom. Now moving on to Jodi Hildebrandt, but staying with Kevin Franke, as the judge was speaking to Jodi Hildebrandt, you can see Kevin in the lower corner of the screen reacting to what's being said. Take a listen.
Ms. Hildebrandt, this circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure.
You can see Kevin right there nodding, seemingly in agreement with what the judge had to say. The judge's full remarks in just a minute here on the program. After the hearing, I did ask Kevin if he would like to share a few words about what he had heard and what he had witnessed. He politely declined and walked away from all of the reporters who tried to ask some questions. Kevin's attorney, Randy Kester, shared a statement with me before the sentencing on Tuesday. It reads, his desire is that the judge follow the parties' agreement that the sentence be for prison 1 to 15 years on each count and they run consecutively. In the meantime, Kevin will remain dedicated to restoring his children's lives to normal. The effect of what Ruby and Jodi did will be life-changing for these innocent kids. And it will take a resolved father to work hard to get them back to some semblance of normalcy. He's up for the job, which he has already undertaken. After the sentencing, I also asked Washington County DA Eric Clark if there's any potential criminal involvement from Kevin, to which he told me, quote, we don't have any evidence regarding any criminal acts on Kevin's part at all. Now, I told you that we'd share more of what the judge had to say to Jodi, which had Kevin Franke nodding in agreement. Here's Judge John Walton to Jodi Hildebrandt during the sentencing on Tuesday.
Ms. Hildebrandt, this circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure, your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults with specialized training in particular are supposed to protect children. You didn't do that in this case. In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic. It's what happened to these children, and your philosophy in dealing with them frankly seems detached from reality or any objective standard of decency or even common sense. And the court finds that it is appropriate that you serve a prison sentence. The court finds under the statute, Utah Code 76-3-401, that given the gravity and circumstances of the offenses, the number of victims, and the history and character and needs of the defendant, that consecutive sentences are appropriate.
So this is the first time that we've heard Judge Walton add any commentary or perspective on these charges during a hearing. He also questioned what Jodi's attorney Doug Terry had to say during his statement.
As is always the case in cases that come before courts, there are two sides to every case. And even in a case like this, that remains the case. There are many allegations regarding these two individuals, Ms. Franke and my client, Ms. Hildebrandt. The only facts in this case that are adjudicated facts are those set forth in the plea agreement that she entered into freely and knowingly and voluntarily. Those facts, those adjudicated facts, are significant. They certainly provide a basis for the pleas and provide a basis for the stipulated sentence in this case. My experience with Ms. Hildebrandt is that she is not the person that she has been portrayed to be.
Mr. Terry, you suggested that there are two sides to every case. I generally agree with you. Ms. Hildebrandt didn't make a statement to AP&P in the course of the pre-sentence investigation report.
Correct.
Why did she not make a statement?
She wanted to reserve her right to make a statement before the court today, and she has a brief statement that she wants to read.
Well, some were taken aback by her attorney's comments. From the naked eye in court, Ruby showed a lot of emotion, was visibly upset and remorseful while reading her lengthy statement. Jody, not so much. Her statement was much shorter, but her emotion was rather stoic. After the sentencing, I spoke with Adam Steed, who has a history of Jody Hildebrandt, one that we've shared on 2 News before. It was Adam's personal information and confessions that Jody shared with others that resulted in her clinical therapist license being suspended nearly a decade ago. Adam was in the courtroom with his family.
What did you make of her attorney saying there are 2 sides to every case, and then the judge, of course, reacting to that?
Oh, Jody Hildebrandt. That just seemed like a sketch art. That's just what an attorney's getting paid to say. That he knows that there's no 2 sides to Jody's case.
Is this some of the worst child abuse you've seen in your career?
Yes, and not just in my career, but in our office's career, in our institutional memory. This is one of the worst child abuse cases we've seen.
I don't think it's the worst. It's bad, but it's not the worst.
The last person who said bad but not the worst, that was Ruby Franke's attorney, Lamar Windward. As you can see, a lot to digest from the sentencing on Tuesday. If you'd like to see Franke and Hildebrandt's sentencing from inside of the courtroom in their entirety, we've posted both videos on our KUTV YouTube page. You can also find our documentary surrounding this case and interviews with the family. It's all in the 8 Passengers playlist. Speaking of that documentary, we've had you covered really since this case broke open in late August. You've trusted the 2 News team to bring you every development, so join us Friday at 6 for a 2 News Investigates special, Truth and Distortion, the Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt story. I'll break down the case, the sentencing, and the sequence of events that led us to this point. That is Friday, 6 p.m. on KUTV 2 News. Let's take a 180, or at least maybe even a 360 if we can here. Always love seeing what's going on there at Alton Snowbird. I know you and I spoke remotely yesterday when I was in St. George.
Good to have you back here.
It's great to be here with you. It rained a lot in St. George, which
sure did.
Is not something I've been used to since moving to Utah. But I think everyone I talked to, there was national media there. They're like, since when does it rain here?
Right, yeah, we saw good rain out there today as well, even some pea-sized hail in some of those areas from St. George up through Cedar City. It's been quite active, and then the mountains have been doing really well, seeing a whole lot of snow. You can see at Alta right now, seeing some snow that's actually getting a little bit lighter right now, but it's a cold 27 degrees with periods of light snow in your area. We've seen some good snow over the past 48 hours. Brighton seeing upwards of 15 inches of snow, Alta seeing over a foot, even Solitude getting in on the action, seeing 10 inches into Snowbird as well, so the skiers loving that. Over the past 48 hours as well, up near the Idaho border into the Cache Valley, seeing some good snow. Richmond a foot, 14 inches into Randolph. Logan 8 inches. Park City even seeing 3 inches of snow with still some light snow in the area. Getting a little bit lighter though now along US 40 here, showing some slick spots out on the roadways, so do be careful. Temperatures here a little bit cooler than yesterday evening at this time, 3 to 6 degrees cooler along the Wasatch Front down into Delta. 7 degrees cooler from 24 hours ago. But yeah, St. George starting to warm things back up after all the rain that we've seen over the past 48 hours. You see the temperatures right now, Heber at 36, Price at 41, Canyonlands there at 54 degrees. We had that good heavy soaking rain. Those thunderstorms pushed through the I-15 corridor from St. George into Cedar City. That batch is pushing eastward into the Panguitch area to Escalante. You can see we're going to start to see some mountain snow out towards the east. And then another round of some showers and some thunderstorms out towards the west that's going to be eventually sliding down into the St. George area as well. So we're not completely in the clear just yet, but we're watching for some dry air. Beaver area, Richfield, you're looking good. Starting to see things that are showing some indications you might be done for the night. Some drizzle here into the southern Wasatch Front, including our northern and central mountains there. Salt Lake, we're even seeing some clearing developing here. Not completely done though. Watching this area up towards the north. This might fill in further down towards the south and east. But overall, the scattered rain, heavy at times, which we've been seeing all day, will be mainly isolated as we get into the latter part of the evening here. 10 p.m. showing isolated snow and rain showers. And then tomorrow morning, maybe 1 or 2 spot showers. That's it. We dry things out and clear things up substantially. Then we get ready for a nice stretch of weather. Friday looking amazing, heading into the weekend warmer and dry as we can maybe flirt with 60 degrees into Sunday, and then all eyes here on an accumulating snowfall, a colder storm system where we could finally get some snow here into the valleys, including into downtown Salt Lake. As the front is just towards the north and west, this will be Monday evening. We'll start off as rain as the front pushes through, plummeting temperatures, and after midnight Monday, heading into early Tuesday mornings, that rain goes to heavy snow for everyone here from central and northern Utah, even down towards portions of southwestern Utah. So we can maybe see some good snow, 3 to 6 inches of snow. If we get over 3.9 inches of snow, that would be the biggest snowstorm we have seen here in Salt Lake so far this season. As you can see, the models here showing maybe upwards of 6 to 12 inches or higher for the mountains, but generally along the Wasatch Back, probably about 4 to 8 inches and probably close to 5 inches or so here in Salt Lake. So a lot can still change here within the next few days in terms of timing, but for right now, looking pretty promising that we'll see some good snow here. Tonight, we'll be down into the 30s as we start to dry things out, some 20s further down towards the southwest. Tomorrow, though, beautiful conditions as we completely drying out after a lingering shower or two in the morning. 40s for highs. St. George, beautiful weather. Look at that Sunday, close to 70 degrees. And then we're going to be watching closely here along the Wasatch Front with the temperatures getting close to 60 degrees for us on Sunday. And then all eyes will be on Monday into Tuesday, Storm Tuesday. We've issued that first alert weather day, which we'll be watching closely with accumulating snow. It's been about a month and a half since we've seen some good snow here in the valley, so it'll be a nice change of pace.
I wish I saw a little bit of that St. George sunshine and temps pushing into the 60s when I was there.
I know. Sorry about
it was
that.
honestly, the weather was very fitting for what we were doing there. It was a dark day for many. We were talking about some really tough things, so I guess sunshine didn't even need to happen.
Right.
So we accepted that. You been out skiing lately?
I have. I'm going to go try and get out there this week. Go to maybe Snowbird.
If you see Sean, snap a selfie with this guy and tag his socials. Remember to download our 2 News Weather app to know about the changes in your neighborhood. Get updated forecast live radar right on your phone. The app is not only handy, but it is free to download, so give it a download. A lot of people are. You would not be the first. Thanks for watching 2 News Live. Obviously, you know we went in depth on Franke Hildebrandt today. We'll not do the same tomorrow, but as more things develop in that case, we will bring it to you. Interesting to see what happens here as we moved closer to Tuesday, because
it's been
I'm
an
a
odd
sucker
winter
for some snow in the valley, right? I moved to Utah, and I'm like, it's supposed to snow at 4,300 feet, right?
It's certainly been a warm February, one of the warmest on record that we've seen, so it'll be nice to finally flip the script here and get some good snow.